Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified season. It is time for our week one downloading episode. And if you're seeing this episode, then that means week one is on the way. The Commanders just got done trimming their roster down to their starting unit. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you see behind me there's football on my television. That's a Colorado game. Football is officially back. We're officially here, and it's time to start going. Eric, how excited are you right now?
Honestly, I'm at like a 4 out of 10. I don't know what's going on with me, but maybe it's the new medication I'm on. Don't know, but I'm not all the way there yet. I'm looking forward to the season. Stuff to talk about. I like enjoying football, but I'm not as like all consumed as I normally am at this time of year, which is a little weird for me. But I think it's probably because I didn't show up for any podcasts for like 2 months, so that might be why. So we're getting back into it now.
Well, if you're a 4 out of 10, I'm a 16 out of 10. And that means that we're both 10 out of 10 on average. So I'm ready to go this week. Let's start taking a look at this team and how they're getting ready for week one. Let me ask you this. What parts of this team are you fully confident in going into the season?
Fully confident. I really like the tight ends. I know that, outside of Zach Ertz, they're not really proven. I do, but I think Zach Ertz still has something left in the tank. And I think Cliff Kingsbury brought him here for a reason. Ben Sinnott was just a monster in the preseason. I don't expect him to be, George Kittle right out of the gate. But I think we can expect good things from him, and hopefully he is ready to roll. And I've always been a John Bates guy in general. I just blocking tight ends are extremely valuable, and he has shown that he can catch the ball when he needs to. Outside of that, I like the safety group as well. Not a big fan of the corners. I don't think anybody is, but the safety group I do like quite a bit with Jeremy Chin, Quan Martin, Percy Butler back there. Derek Forrest did end up making the team. Reeves, you've got plenty of depth back there. So tight ends and safeties are probably the ones that I am most confident in. And the two running backs I do like quite a bit as well.
Yeah, definitely agree. What do you think about Noah Brown? Do you think he's going to be a strong contributor? Do you think he's going to like creep up on wide receiver too? What are your optimism levels for Noah Brown at the wide
It's
receiver?
hard to say. The people in Houston apparently really liked him. I listened to a couple of Houston like broadcast teams, and they were like, "I can't believe they dropped him." I guess injuries have kind of been his thing. He's flashed a lot of potential, but just the ability to stay healthy. We played I think 10 games last year in Houston, had a 75-yard touchdown, so that's good. He doesn't really, just from what I've seen of him, and I do recall him a bit in Dallas. More of like a chain mover type of receiver than like there's not a lot of explosiveness there, but he's a big bully, strong wide receiver, can make contested catches, seems to have a pretty good radius. Like he'll go up and get the ball or reach out and grab it. I like that. As far as like what he's going to produce, I mean, the last 2 years he's been a 40-ish catch, 550-yard guy. We did that in 10 games last year. He did it in I think 16 games with Dallas the year before. I mean, that's a pretty good baseline for what he's going to do. So if you can get 40-ish catches and 500-ish yards out of a receiver you brought in after final cuts, I think that's a win. I don't know that he's, it just depends on what the other guys on this team that are already here doing. Is Diami Brown ready to take a leap, or is he kind of a preseason wonder once again this year? We'll see. Jamison Crowder and Byron Pringle and those guys they kind of are what they are. I don't know. I don't see huge jumps. So the opportunity for him to seize a bigger role is going to be there, but it's really up to him and, what the rest of the guys do. Outside of Terry McLaurin, there really isn't a great number two option staring us in the face. So it's whoever jumps up and seizes it, I guess the best way to put it. But Brown's definitely there. He's got an opportunity here for sure.
Yeah. Most of his yards came in a 3-game run that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to be aware of. It doesn't mean he's not going to be good, but I think to me it tempers my expectations a little bit in terms of overall season consistency, because outside of that, it was kind of not iffy, but like, he had what I think I put this out earlier today, but I think he had like something like 60% of his catches came in those 3 games out of the 10 that he played.
Yeah.
70% of his yards and all of his touchdowns came in those 3 games. The rest of the games that he played, he was kind of just there. So I wanted to keep a realistic perspective on it. I love the fact that he and Terry played together in school. I do like the fact that Jaden seems anxious to work with him, and he's a different body type than we have. What I kind of like think about Noah Brown, what I start to think about is like what we always thought Kelvin Harmon could become, is what I think about Noah Brown. Something in that mold. I'm not going to go crazy like, oh, he's a T Higgins or no, stop, right? Because if he were like a T Higgins type, he wouldn't be on his third team in 3 years.
Yeah.
So keep a realistic perspective. I am optimistic about him personally, though, because I think he's going to be in that wide receiver 4 role. And we need that. We need better depth, and we got it at the wide receiver position. The area that I'm most concerned about, and linebackers, we didn't see that group together during the preseason, but I'm not most concerned about them. I'm most concerned about our edge rushers and our ability to rush the passer. And I am because our cornerbacks, we know, are not that great, at least so far what we've seen. Samuel, he's going to be a baller. I know. But you still have questions about Forbes. We've always had questions about St. Juice. You don't know what you're getting to Mike Davis. And if your pass rush is not getting home, you got problems. And now it looks like Jamin Davis is going to be a central part of that pass rush rotation. He's still learning the position. So edge rusher, the NFL, the 2 highest paid positions in the NFL are what? Quarterback and edge rusher, right? Wide receivers creeping up there now too. Like, make no mistake, they're giving out big money to wide
Left
receivers.
tackle, which we also don't know about.
Left tackle too. You're correct.
It's also a big question mark for us.
Which is another question mark for us. That's correct. But edge rushers are important. That's how you slow down today's NFL pass game. And I just don't know that we have explosiveness on the edge. So that's a concern for me. What's your concern area?
Yeah, edge rusher is definitely one. Linebacker, not concerned about it all. They hadn't played together, but you've got Bobby Wagner back there, so you're good. I'm not worried about anything there. Corner, of course, we know is a little bit of a question mark. We've kind of been over that quite a bit. In all seriousness, quarterback still concerns me. I know Jaden looks the part. He's done everything right. The work ethic is unquestioned. I just am concerned about him getting hurt. He didn't protect himself in the limited opportunities he had. And he took 3 hits in the preseason on like 4 carries. So that's still a concern for me. I'm not going to get over it until I see a long stretch of him doing it. Because behind him, Marcus Mariota is sitting back there, and we know what you got. We know what we got going on there. Jeff Driscoll was nice in the preseason, but arm strength is going to be a huge concern for him. So yeah, if Jaden can't keep himself upright, that's going to be a concern. Call me a negative Nelly, but I am concerned there with that. And again, I brought it up earlier, but left tackle, it's nice that the kid we drafted, he's back healthy again. We didn't see a thing out of him. He hasn't practiced or played in a couple of weeks, and he's heading into week 1 as the starter. With Brandon Coleman, sorry, that's his name. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head, but yeah, we don't know what he is. So maybe he's the next Trent Williams, or maybe he is the next Sharp or Donish. We have no idea or he's probably somewhere in between there, hopefully. We don't know because we haven't seen a thing from him, and he's really getting his first NFL action in week 1, which is not ideal either. So we'll see what we got there.
What do you are you comfortable with the kicker now with Cade York now that we traded for him, or do you still see it as a big question mark for our group?
I mean, it is, but in my opinion, this team isn't really going to contend to the point where kicker matters as much this year. So if he doesn't, I think he's a solid kicker, and I think he was drafted, and he had his ups and downs as all young kickers do. We'll see. Maybe he settles in here, maybe he doesn't. But with this team, I know they're trying to be as competitive as possible this year while building for the future. I think kicker is part of it. So are we going to be in a position where like late in the season we got to have a kick to make the playoffs? I don't really think so. So, I'd be more concerned if this was like a team that was ready to compete for a Super Bowl and we were shaky at kicker. I'd be much more concerned than I am with a team that's in the first year of a recalibration or whatever they want to call it, to have a shaky kicker. He may be the difference between 7 and 8 wins. I can live with that.
Yeah, and I've listened to a lot of national radio, and one thing that comes up consistently on the national radio level is there's a lot of concern about Cliff Kingsbury and his offense from the time that he was in Arizona. Does Kingsbury's offense, his play calling, etc., concern you at all at this point? Or are you fully comfortable with the Kingsbury offense and what we're going to try to do?
It's interesting. I'm concerned about because what we've seen from Kingsbury's teams historically, going all the way back to Texas Tech, is late season collapses. Like they start off hot and then they kind of fade down the stretch. Every year, that's been the case. Is that because he was just too distracted as a head coach? Now that he's focusing on offense, is that still going to happen? So that's not going to manifest itself until like November. So that's when I'm going to start really paying attention. If they come out just dominating on offense the first month of the season, fantastic. It's just something you got to keep in the back of your mind, because it's another one of those things for me. Until I see it, I'm going to just assume that this team's going to fade down the stretch, or the offensive production, even though now he's, honed in on the offense. That's all he has to worry about. That probably makes a huge difference. So maybe, that's the case. He's not worried about, signing a free agent, defensive tackle, because his guy just went down and he's got that on his plate in addition to trying to figure out an offensive game plan call plays. So maybe that's all he's got to worry about, and things will be much better. But until we see it, we just don't know. So I'm not concerned about it now, but I might be concerned about it if we're like, 6-3 heading into November and the offense is starting to slow down. Then I might be a little worried about it.
Yeah. The thing I just want him to do is commit to the run, and not with the quarterback. I want to see him commit to the run with the running backs that we have. And if he does that and he protects Jaden in that way and gives him the opportunity to throw from the pocket and learn and grow, I'm happy with whatever Kingsbury does. But, just a lot of the concerns are around just how static his offense becomes, and defense is usually figured out. Like to your point about the collapses in late in the season, defense is usually figured out by the time we get around to week 7, week 8, and so we'll see what he's learned and how much more dynamic his offense can be. But I'm excited. My concern level for the Kingsbury offense is probably at a 3.5 right now. But as you said, as the season starts to progress, that could adjust very quickly. So we'll see. All right. On the defensive side of the ball, Joe Witt, in the last preseason game, we brought a little bit more pressure, I think. Are you anticipating that we be a blitz package heavy defense this year?
We might not have a choice because of what you kind of said earlier about the edge rushers. It's like, I just don't know that you're going to get a really good, consistent 4-man pass rush. I think the pressure up the middle is probably going to be fine with Alan Payne and Johnny Newton coming in. I think you should be able to get a decent push up the middle, but those guys who collapse the pocket, you need the edge rushers finishing things off when that pocket collapses. Are Dante Fowler and Cleveland Ferrell up to the challenge? Who knows? Because then, some of the other guys, obviously everybody flipped out when they cut KJ Henry. He had a really good tool set, but again, he never really put it together. So I'm not super freaked out about that. But the kid from Notre Dame seemed to have a really high motor. I really liked watching him, but is he ready to put that all out there as a heavy contributor? Jamin Davis, you said, is learning the position. So I can see a lot of activity. Jeremy Chin is a great blitzer. I think somebody like a Dominique Hampton can be used with his athleticism, can be used as a linebacker in blitz packages. I think you're going to see a lot of that. It's not just going to be Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu blitzing, and Louvu's shown himself to be an outstanding pass rusher as well. Like he can get to the quarterback if you send him. So I think blitzing is going to be pretty heavy until some of those edge rushers start to prove their worth and prove that they can just get by with a 4-man pass rush.
Yeah, that they can beat their guy. Yeah, exactly. So, and with blitzing, you get exposed on because you don't have many people in coverage. So, strategic blitzing, I'm okay with, and I think I agree with you totally. I think we're going to be a very aggressive defense, and when we're not successful in that aggression, we're going to pay for it big time. But when we are successful, I think it gives us the opportunity to create turnovers and allow Emmanuel Forbes to do what he does best, which is take the ball from the other team. So I'm looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a little bit of an experiment, and then we're going to adjust slowly as the season goes on. But Joe Witt is still somebody who's very high on my list of like key off-season acquisitions. So I'm super excited to see what he's going to do for us. An early look at Tampa Bay, who was our first opponent. What makes you nervous about playing that team?
Well, a rookie quarterback going against a traditionally aggressive defensive play caller in Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles loves to send pressure. So Jaden's going to get his stripes really quick. He's going to learn what the NFL is like in week one, because the Bucs may be a little bit depleted as compared to what they've been in previous years. They're still, they've still got a very solid and aggressive play calling defensive head coach. So their defense, regardless of personnel, could pose problems for this offense, especially with, the potential issues at offensive line. The guys haven't played together much. We don't know, Allegretti's been a backup his entire career. Brandon Coleman's never taken a snap in the NFL. We saw, kind of what they had. Biotish, a nice solid piece in the middle. So hopefully he can get everybody on the same page. I mean, I think the right side might be a little better, but that left side of the offensive line might be a little scary, at least early on. And I think Todd Bowles knows that. And again, I think, you'll see him probably watch Jaden Daniels throw almost all of his passes when outside the hashes in the preseason. I think that's one of the things that, Todd Bowles is going to test. He's going to, if got guys outside, we're just going to take that away and see if you can beat us over the middle. And hopefully Jaden can. We don't know yet, but we'll see. But I think that's something you'll see. So I think, Tampa Bay, Todd Bowles as a defensive, say what you will about him as a head coach, the jury's kind of out there. He's kind of always been a mid record-wise head coach. But, as a defensive play caller, dude's top notch. So that's always a cause for concern.
Absolutely. What about Mike Evans? I'm a little worried about our cornerback matchups with Mike Evans. Mike Evans has had like 1,000+ yards for like 11 straight years or something like that. The dude is just unreal. And then you have Baker Mayfield, who can move around and create plays. And Baker Mayfield, when he's left with a lot of time, which with our lack of pass rush he might be, can get the ball down the field. And so that's what makes me nervous about this Tampa Bay matchup, man, is that Mike Evans might have a field day. It really depends. Would you put St. Juste on Mike Evans because of the size matchup, or do you think you would?
Man, just play your defense. Give him help. Is Godwin still over there on the other side? I haven't even had a chance to look at Tampa Bay's roster yet. But they've got, I can't remember if Chris Godwin's on the roster, so I'll just shut up about that. As far as Mike Evans goes, he's probably going to get him because it's that just throw it to him. He's like 6'5". He can jump. He's fast, so it doesn't really matter who you put on him. He's probably going to get make a couple of big plays just based on who he is. I think the key is to get at Mayfield and keep Mayfield kind of contained in the pocket to where he can't move around and make plays, because I think that's when he's better. And that may work to our advantage in this case, because while our guys maybe not the best edge rushers as far as like Dante Fowler and Cleveland Farrell and Doris Armstrong has been pretty good at it, but those guys are good, especially Farrell and Fowler are good edge setters. They're very good at contain. They can hold that edge, and if you get pressure up the middle and you can contain the outside, keep Baker kind of locked in, I think you can. That's how you kind of make him a little nervous and maybe not as accurate, because if you let him kind of get out of the pocket, step up, make throws, and then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. But I think Mike Evans is probably going to get his yards, maybe a touchdown. There's not a whole lot you can do about that, but if you can contain the rest of that offense, maybe you've got a better chance.
Yeah. I don't think Mike Evans has played this preseason at all. I could be wrong. We'll talk about that more next
Still
week.
Mike Evans.
Still Mike Evans. Chris Godwin does still play for the Bucs.
Yeah.
So they definitely have some talent at the receiver position. Their running back is not half bad either.
They got Bucky, man. Bucky Irving out there.
They do. We wanted him bad for this team. And then they also have Rashad White, I believe, as well.
Yeah. You and Mike wanted him bad. I was like, he's
I did.
It's all good. Well, he'll go for 250 on us, and I'll look like an idiot. But
all right. So early prediction for the game. I know there's a lot that still needs to transpire, and we'll dive deep into this matchup next week. How do you feel about this game going into week one? Do you think that this is something that it's going to be really competitive, or what?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be a week one game. There's going to, with the shorter preseason in recent years, early season games have basically been like preseason games. They've been a little rough to watch at times. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams still working out their kinks. So there'll probably be quite a few mistakes in this game on both sides, just for the fact that a lot of guys just haven't played a lot yet. So just because of that, I don't see it as a blowout on either side. What I really want to see is like that. And I'm time. Hear that thunder? It's good stuff. Good. I try to poo-poo on 2012 as much as possible, but that week 1 game where Robert just like blew up against the Saints on the road, I'd like to see something like that where just Jaden Daniels just comes out and just announces his, his presence in the NFL. So he's like, I'm a guy to deal with. I'd like to see him make plays, and I think the potential is there to do that. That's what I really hope. I'm going to go ahead and early on, and I reserve the right to change my mind next week, but I'll say Commanders win this week in a kind of shootout. So we'll go like a 30-28 type of game, just because there's going to be mistakes on defense and busted plays and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to do pretty well week 1. The Buccaneers are also learning a new offensive system. And they got a lot to kind of piece together, especially with the lack of playing time and chemistry that they developed in the preseason. I think that we rely heavily on the run and neutralize the pass rush. That way, Jaden participates in the run game, and then there's some really good things that come out of that. So I'm going to say that before we dive deep and look at their roster and compare, different things, I think the Commanders are going to take it. But that subject to change when we get into the nitty-gritty details about this next week. So, the offseason is officially over, man. The offseason is over. The roster, any surprises on that roster for you on the final team?
I really thought that they would keep they would cut Jeremy McNichol and keep Wiley, but they chose the opposite. I mean, obviously the KJ Henry thing, but everybody's talked about that. But yeah, I think Jeremy McNichol over Michael Wiley, just based on what they looked like in the preseason, I thought Wiley had the edge there, but he made it to the practice squad, so it's all good. But that was a little bit of a surprise to me. Outside of that, not really. I'm glad they didn't keep. Well, I don't want to say like negatively, but I kind of thought the way that they kept talking up Kaz Allen that he was almost like a lock to make the roster, and I don't really get the hype over him. But I guess Kingsbury doesn't either because he's on the practice squad. So. That's about it. I mean, KJ Henry, obviously, and Wiley or McNichol over Wiley would be my 2.
Yeah, I think Yankoff making the roster was interesting. I don't think
I think he looked great in the preseason, and Cole Turner didn't, and Yankoff played well on special teams, according to everybody else, everybody that watches those type of things. So yeah, Yankoff doesn't surprise me, and he's a guy that they brought in.
I could see it be one of those guys that gets placed on, that gets released later in the year to fill the roster spot with someone else. But I'm happy he's here now. All right, man. Final thoughts on our week 1 downloading episode.
Downloading and not buffering. That's good. Looking forward to actually getting in. We got a week from today. I guess today's Thursday here. So a week from today, we've got real live NFL football. So looking forward to that. And opening weekend is right around the corner.
Yep. And our fantasy draft is Saturday night. So we're going to have some fun with that. And,
it is.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking real matchups next week about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So everybody who's listening, we thank you. Subscribe, like, comment, everything, everywhere, anytime you see our podcast. And Mike will be back next week. Shout out to Mike. We're also going to post some blogs on our website now that the season's back around, so be on the lookout for that. Otherwise, stay safe in the storms, and we'll see you next week. Commanders Declassified. We are out of here.